and welcome to Tuesday's edition of the dceu Daily. Remember to tag me over on Twitter at MoviesTVMad with any topic suggestions, articles you've found, or any fan questions. There seems to be more discussions outside of the dceu movies than there is inside. So for the past 2 days, there has been some chatter about maybe Zack Snyder's Justice League being cancelled by Warner Media, AT&T and HBO Max. Now this goes back to these trailers disappearing from the HBO Max official accounts, the Warner Media official accounts and the Warner Brothers Pictures official accounts. So what's going on here? Well, it's good. One journalist actually found out. Aaron Crouch from The Hollywood Reporter was able to update us about this situation. HBO Max has removed August's trailer for Zack Snyder's Justice League over music right issues, but it will likely go back up on YouTube once the issue is resolved. Now, some fans don't believe this is true, and some people do. I believe this is true because I've heard many people talk about libel and copyright laws over the song that was used on Zack Snyder's Justice League first trailer. So I believe that this is the case. Unfortunately, before this was confirmed, people were coming up with conspiracy theories because unfortunately there's a side of our fandom who's brewing for a fight all the time. And this is why Ray Fisher is able to stir the pot constantly. Now, I'll talk about Ray and I'll talk about Shiraz Faruqi in a moment. Well, we'll carry on with this topic first of all, because this is the problem. You know, there's those of us who just want to embrace the good news. Zack Snyder is back. The Snyderverse is back. We're getting Justice League. Hopefully, we're getting David Ayer's cut of Suicide Squad as well. But these people are never, ever satisfied. So they were spreading crap about this, you know. Instead of investigating, instead of researching, they're coming up with conspiracy theories and scaring everyone. I mean, I'd never really believed it. I mean, by the end of the evening, I started to think maybe this is plausible. And even really thinking about maybe Warner Media are just sick to death of Ray Fisher, and maybe they linked the situation back to Zack Snyder and said, you know what, Zack? We know we've made mistakes. We know we did wrong by you. But look, we've righted our wrong. We've corrected our mistake. We are allowing you to make your own movie, to, you know, show the world your vision. What do you want from us, blood? We're sorry. We made a mistake. We shouldn't have drove you off the picture. We shouldn't have done what we did. But we're trying to make up for it now, right? So let's just pretend and imagine for a minute that the film has been taken down. The film has been abolished. I don't think that's the case. I believe what Aaron Crouch is saying. I'm not like the conspiracy theorists. I like a good conspiracy theory, by the way, but there's nothing to see here, boys and girls. So let's imagine the film was cancelled. I would be going fucking ballistic right now. If Aaron didn't come in with this information, I was preparing what to say. And the whole blame for me would be on Ray Fisher. Because not only did he out a private conversation between himself and DC Films head Walter Hamada, he's gone after Toby Emmerich now, right? With baseless accusations. So I wouldn't blame Warner Brothers or these people for taking this film down and saying, you know what? I've had enough of your fans. I've had enough of Zack Snyder. I've had enough of you, Ray. We're taking the film down. We're done. Now, how are you going to feel as a fan? Personally, I'm going to blame Ray Fisher. Now, you know, the other day when I read that article, I was like chanting Ray Fisher's name. But now, my opinion is the opposite. My opinion is that I'm not happy with Ray Fisher stirring the pot and conveniently going down the racial route as well, which is simply not true. So, if Zack Snyder's Justice League had been cancelled and postponed, I would blame Ray Fisher totally. But here's the thing. It's not been postponed. It's still carrying on. The additional photography is happening as we speak, right? So there's no issue here. It is a legal copyright matter to do with the song. There's loads of versions of this song, and it is a problematic song to use because of copyright law. So I absolutely believe this. I believe this is the reason. So could you all please stop stirring the pot about something that simply isn't true? I can understand that people were getting worried when this trailer was taken down, but you've had a truthful, honest explanation. And credit to Aaron Crouch. While other journalists, using the terms loosely, were going around doing clickbait articles, people like Grace Randolph stirring people up. This is a very, very precious, a complicated situation. And I'm going to try and find out more about it for you. She has got a bunch of fanboys eating out of her hands, believing everything she says. She knew damn well what was going on. If she's as connected as she brags about, she would have known this was about a copyright issue and nothing else. But instead of laying fans' fears at ease to rest, she was stirring the pot even more. So I was very relieved after Aaron Crouch kindly told us the absolute 100% truth. It's not being cancelled, there isn't a problem, and the trailer will be back up as soon as possible. After 4 days of his interview going up with Shiraz Faruqi at Forbes, and 3 days after Shiraz Faruqi was released by Forbes, Ray Fisher finally decided to make a statement. My team and I have been in contact with Forbes regarding the unorthodox changes that were made to their October the 29th article written by Shiraz Faruqi. Even more concerning is that Shiraz is now listed as a former contributor. I will personally be getting to the bottom of this. He does reckon himself. He does think he's really hard, Ray, doesn't he? Nobody's scared of you, Ray. That's the truth. Right. Now he adds to this. Right, because Shiraz Faruqi actually made a statement, and Ray quote tweets this statement. I'll read Shiraz's statement in a moment. Any publication would be beyond lucky to have Shiraz Faruqi on their staff. When I start talking Justice League specifics, he will be the first and probably only person I call. One of these other trades better pick him up ASAP. Trust me, A&E. Accountability over entertainment, of course, because who cares about entertainment anymore, right? It's all about that message, right? Anyway, let's read what Shiraz Faruqi had to say. I'd like to wholeheartedly thank everyone for their kind support. You uplifted me and defended my integrity. It meant the world to me. While Forbes has ended my contract, I stand behind the interview, and my goal is to continue to strive strong reporting as a young journalist. So, while Forbes has ended my contract, I stand behind the interview. So he stands behind the interview. I think these are interesting words because he says he stands by the interview, but he doesn't name Ray Fisher once. That's interesting. That's interesting that he doesn't say that he feels that Ray's speaking the whole truth. Now, why would Forbes remove this young journalist? Is it fear because Joss Whedon's legal team came at Forbes and they decided to remove him? Was it Joss Whedon's people who said, remove the journalist or you'll be hearing from us and we'll take you to court, we'll sue you? Or is there something more nefarious that happened within this article? Could it be the case that this article was not proofread before it was published? Could it be possible that Shiraz actually published this without showing it to the management at Forbes before he did it, because he knew this article would never see the light of day? I'm alleging this, I can't prove this, but I am very suspicious why Forbes would get rid of him. As I say, it's one of two things. Either they were under pressure to do or die, or Shiraz went and did something very wrong and just posted this article. Now, I don't know if journalists have the ability, a password, to just publish, put something up before it's proofread. I'm assuming they're the ones who post these things. So I think it's more than possible that could have happened, and that's why he's removed. The thing is, Ray, you can go and talk to Forbes as much as you want. You wholeheartedly knew the statements you were making, the third-party statements and accusations, were baseless and libelous. And by doing that, you put Shiraz and Forbes at risk. You put them at risk from legal action. You didn't care about that. And then after people like me were shouting at you and calling you out for 3 days, you decided to make some bullshit statement. And by the way, you said that Shiraz is going to be the only one you go to with more Justice League information. Maybe it's better for Shiraz you don't do that, because you're just going to get him in trouble again. He saw a naive, young journalist who's also a fanboy, right? And he took advantage of him for those reasons, to put forward his agenda and crusade. It was wrong, unorthodox, and immoral. Now, this is an interesting Screen Rant theory on Wonder Woman 84. How Wonder Woman 84 can include Lex Luthor? This is an interesting thing, and some people call it clickbait. I just think this is a theory. This is a theory piece by Michael Kennedy, so let's give it a read. While there's been no indication of his involvement so far, there's a couple of pretty easy ways Lex Luthor could be included in Wonder Woman 84. While there's been no indication of his involvement so far, there's a couple of pretty easy ways Lex Luthor could be included in Wonder Woman 1984. Luthor has been a cornerstone villain of the DC Universe for many decades. Of course, primarily known for his eternal rivalry with Superman, first introduced in 1940. Luthor is most often portrayed as a ruthless businessman with a win-at-all-costs attitude, and while it tends to get him far in life, it rarely wins him friends or loved ones. Luthor has been portrayed literally dozens of times by many actors, especially if one includes animation voice work into the equation. Luthor is arguably the quintessential villain of the DC world, although he's certainly not the most physically strong or most supernaturally powerful one, although if he's got his power suit on, then he is. What Luthor has, in addition to his vast riches and resources that go with them, is a formidable mind and cunning ability to find a way out of just about any perilous situation. In the DCEU, Luthor has been portrayed by Jesse Eisenberg, with his portrayal proving divisive. He was the main antagonist of Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, then made a cameo in Justice League. Could Luthor appear in Wonder Woman 84? Time-wise, no, at least not fully formed. He could, however, easily be referred in the DCEU timeline Lex Luthor's adult self, as played by Jesse Eisenberg. Obviously can't be part of Wonder Woman 1984 as he's too young. However, Luthor's canonical DCEU birth took place in 1984. Now that's interesting. While that likely didn't play a role in DC's decision to set the Wonder Woman sequel in that particular year, taking place then offers a perfect opportunity to make mention of Luthor's birth in some clever way. After all, the big part of Maxwell Lord's characterization in the film is that of a giant of mass media, so things like the relatively new, at the time, 24-hour cable news may well play a role in the plot. Additionally, a sleazy but charismatic businessman like Lord may well run in the same circles as Lex's very public father, Lex Corp founder Alexander Luthor Sr. Introducing Lex's dad into the story provides a very clear way of making the event of his birth somehow tie into Wonder Woman 84. That would be brilliant, wouldn't it? I'd love that. And thus further its importance within the overall DCEU lore. This, of course, all assuming that the DCEU's current Lex Luthor is staying as is, as it's unclear if Eisenberg will return for future films beyond Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League. Now, I was reading the article like I haven't seen the film. Now, obviously, I have seen the film, and I do know if we're going to have a mention of Lex or Alexander Luthor Sr. I'm not going to tell you what the case is because I think that would spoil it. There's some people who may be really excited about this, and if I hadn't seen the movie, I'd be really excited about that. So I'm not going to tell you if he's in it or not. What I will say is this. If I hadn't seen the movie, I would say to you, this is awesome, that this is a great idea, that it would be great to have Lex's birth referenced in this movie, and it would be even better to have Alexander Luthor in this movie, and maybe even played by Jesse Eisenberg, or What I've always wanted is to have Alexander Luthor referenced in the DCEU since Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, and be played by the guy who played Kingpin in Netflix's Daredevil, Vincent D'Onofrio. Such a great actor, looks like a traditional Luthor. It will be great to bring him in as Alexander Luthor Sr. Now, really, he's the Lex Luthor from the comics. And this is really a new 52 kind of son of Alexander, which is what he is. I always wondered, though, if Lex Luthor Sr. is even dead. Because even though Lex kind of hints and references to him being dead and him not being around anymore, the word dead never comes out of his mouth. So potentially his father could be out there somewhere. He'd be extremely old unless he's got some kind of technology to keep him young. He's obviously a Luthor who can get his hands on this kind of thing. So basically, look, I don't want to say anything else. I don't want to spoil anything else. But yes, if he's in this movie, I'm not saying he is, but if he was in this movie, it would be a really awesome thing. An exclusive from Screen Rant, DC's newest Flash is a non-binary speedster. Now, of course, this news will get a lot of people's backup. The Justice League's newest Flash in the upcoming Future State event is Jess Chambers, a non-binary speedster from Earth 11. DC's upcoming Future State event will see the debut of a plethora of new heroes. One of the most exciting characters set to be introduced is the newest Flash, who will be part of the future Justice League. The new non-binary hero will debut in the DC's very merry multiverse before joining the big leagues with the JL. DC Comics' upcoming Future State event will shift the DC universe ahead in time following the events of Dark Knights, Death Metal. The 2-month line-wide event will see the debut of both new heroes and villains, including new takes on Batman, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, and more. One of the most exciting reveals was a mysterious new Flash who had little details revealed about them. Screen Rant has exclusively learned that the new Flash will debut in Ivan Cohen and Eleonora Carlini's DC's Very Merry Multiverse. Jess Chambers, aka Kid Quick, will be part of the Earth 11's Teen Justice team in an 8-page story becoming the Flash in Future State Justice League. The character is gender fluid, non-binary, and uses they-them pronouns. Chambers' aunt is longtime speedster Jessie Quick. Cohen said it was important to create new, different version of the Flash readers haven't seen before. This is one of the authors of the comic. I suggested that Kid Quick could be Earth 11's first gender-fluid character, and once editors saw Eleonora Carlini's terrific take on the character's design, there was suddenly a lot of interest in them for stories beyond the Merry Multiverse special in December. Chambers can be seen in a brand new costume in the Flash in the Future State Justice League series. They will be part of a new league where the team members' identities are so secret they even keep them from each other. It will be interesting to learn how Chambers ended up coming from Earth 11 to the mainstream future DC universe, considering how the multiverse is in peril. The multiple speedsters can hop dimensions. There are a handful of ways Chambers could join the main universe. It's exciting to see DC introduce a new version of the Flash. Chambers will have to navigate their way through a new universe as they become a Justice League hero. Check out the solicit for DC's Very Merry Multiverse below. Joy to all 52 worlds. It's time to celebrate the holiday season across the DC multiverse. In 10 stories that would light your Yule log and spike your eggnog. Batman decks the gaslight halls. Lobo goes Old Testament in space. Ragman learns the true meaning of Saturnalia. President Superman attempts to figure out how Bizarro stole Christmas. And Harley Quinn tries her hand at interdimensional caroling. These seasonal sagas are sure to help you have yourself a very merry multiverse. So there it is. Listen, a lot of people are going to lose their shit about this. I don't mind gender fluid, non-binary people being represented in comic books or TV. Not at all. And I mean, obviously, the pronoun thing is the way they want to be addressed. Now, it's something that's new. It's something that's different. And it's something that people find rather difficult because change is difficult. Now, if I don't know someone's a non-binary person, it's very difficult, isn't it? How do I know how to use the pronouns if I don't know what those pronouns are? Oh, look, it's a minefield, and I understand that. But representing, a gender-fluid, non-binary person in a comic book when there's loads of other versions of the Flash that you can read anyway is not a big deal. And hopefully they do a good job of this version of the Flash. This has actually just come on my radar from discussing film. AMC CEO says they have had significant conversations with Warner Brothers about an early video on demand deal to release movies on demand within weeks of their theatrical debuts. They currently have a similar 17-day early VOD deal with Universal Pictures. This is interesting. Now, the problem with this is, of course, things have to be released for them to get these early VOD releases, don't they? So, in terms of Wonder Woman 84, for example, where there is another article, where are we, from Deadline? Let's go back to Twitter. This is very, very amateur, isn't it, Mick? But let's do this. Right, here we are. Wonder Woman 84 exhibition awaiting another release date change, shortened theatrical window, not on the cards. You see, so they're being very, very backwards here. So, despite this being encouraging, that Warner Brothers are in discussions to have, shorter video on demand release spaces from the movie theatre release. It's not encouraging because at the end of the day, the film has to be released first for it to be on VOD within a few weeks, right? And they're still going to refuse to release Wonder Woman 84 because they still want to make the $1 billion from the theatrical release. This is not a possibility in the next 18 months. They are absolutely deluded. Wonder Woman 84 exhibition awaiting another release date change. Shortened theatrical windows not in the cards. Not to send everyone screaming for the exits, but it wouldn't be out of the question if Warner Brothers moves Wonder Woman 84 off its Christmas Day global theatrical release. Facts are facts. Whether former Vice President Joe Biden takes the US presidency or President Donald Trump continues, movie theatres in New York City and Los Angeles remain closed, and even worse, Western Europe, meaning UK, Germany, France, Italy, and a curfewed Spain is largely closed down. Those countries having wrecked 16% of the 2017 first picks 409.3 million overseas box office. I hear a meeting is underway with studio brass who are deciding what will happen next. This despite all good intentions by Warner Brothers executives to stick to the December the 25th last week at a Variety Power of Women conversations. Warner Brothers chair and CEO Ann Sarnoff said, "We've got a little bit of time to figure that out in regards to a Wonder Woman 84 release date change." In fact, the studio does not. If Warner Brothers doesn't want to incur any lost P&A money, it needs to move Wonder Woman 84 now. According to several industry sources, generally, tentpole movie campaigns fire off 6 weeks before their opening date. That will put Wonder Woman 84 spots starting the week before the Thanksgiving. And if the Patty Jenkins directed movie starring Gal Gadot is going to stick to its Christmas Day release date, it definitely needs to promote during Thanksgiving when everyone is home watching football, and there might be some who dare to go to the cinemas to see Universal's DreamWorks Animation's The Croods: A New Age, which is playing on a shortened theatrical window in time for PVOD airing by Christmas. It's a tough decision and a great responsibility for Warner's to bear on behalf of the industry, not unlike the bravery executed in releasing Christopher Nolan's Tenet at a time when the pandemic wasn't over, and box office capitals New York and Los Angeles still closed, which yielded a 20.2 million 11-day domestic opening. With current running domestic box office to date of 53.8 million, the global take has been better at 347.1 million. The lackluster domestic results forced other major studios to pull all their fall holiday tentpoles off the schedule. If Wonder Woman 84 flees Christmas, we could further expect Disney to pull its 20th Century Studios marquee feature, Free Guy, starring Ryan Reynolds and Death on the Nile, which has Gadot doing double duty exhibition. Also, IKS looking forward to those movies. However, with Wonder Woman 84's rescheduling to 2021, there in one swoop would go the year-end holiday movie-going frame, which exhibition has been eyeing to lengthen their financial runaways. That type of situation could put big circuits like AMC into bankruptcy or force exhibition to force close down. Number 2 chain UK Cineworld is closed, with its US counterpart Regal only open in select California and New York locations. Until there's Until there's a complete sense of the virus cooling, studios and distributors are opting to stick with booking low-budget movies in the marketplace, titles they can target at specific demos. Open Road's honest. Look, basically they're just going to go on and on and on and on and on. Let's get this absolutely straight. Wonder Woman 84 will probably move again. And again. And again. You see, here's the problem. Now, when I was reading that discussing film bit from you, when the Warner Brothers are, negotiating a deal to have shorter theatre windows and so they can go straight to video on demand, I was encouraged. But then I realised, as I said to you, without it being released in movie theatres, that is irrelevant. And they are going to refuse to put these into movie theatres. I understand that. You've got to forget about movie theatres and do the deal with these people, as I suggested months ago, to create a video-on-demand streaming service. So instead of theatres, they go straight on video-on-demand for rental of $20 to $30 a night. That's it. That's the message. That's what they should be doing. But they won't. Busy day here on the dceu Daily. So let's relax and, enjoy and think about Smallville, because Screen Rant about a day ago did a beautiful write-up about Smallville. It's my favourite superhero, Superman TV show. It probably is the ultimate Superman superhero origin story. A decade, achievement after achievement. It was awesome, so let's give it a read. Smallville was the ultimate Superman series, despite no types, no flights. Let's call him Andy, the author of this, because it's the same guy. I couldn't pronounce his name last time. Despite not flying or wearing the suit until 2-hour series finale, Smallville, starring Tom Welling, is the best Superman television of all time. No question about that. Not that there's got much competition out there. Despite Clark Kent not donning the iconic costume and taking it to the skies until the series finale, Smallville was and still is the best Superman TV show, and that has ever been made before. There was an Arrowverse or even the vast number of other comic book shows that exist today. Smallville was the show to watch after it premiered in 2001. Back then, most broadcast networks were hesitant in adapting superhero properties to the small screen, but for the WB, before becoming the CW, the good old days in other words, the Superman prequel came at the right time and became a huge hit instantly, despite originally only planning to run for 5 seasons. Smallville's longevity got extended once the CW was born in 2006. Throughout Smallville's run on TV, the creators brought in many characters from the Superman mythology, from major players like Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen and Perry White, to iconic foes such as Darkseid, Doomsday and General Zod. Clark ended up encountering many of these people before even becoming Superman. However, for as much Superman content that Smallville brought in and put its spin on, there was one rule the series was built upon from the beginning. No tights, no flights. While Clark wore proto-suits and did fly under special circumstances, Smallville only saw him as Superman proper in the final 2 hours of the series. I've always said this, even though he wasn't dressed as Superman, he had the powers, he had the pure-heartedness. He pretty much is Superman without the suit. But, of course, it's a prequel story, so he's not there yet. However, even if Clark only suited up and finally mastered the power of flight, in the final episode, Smallville was, for all intents and purposes, still a Superman series. While many fans of the iconic hero see his tights and flights as the essential to the character, Clark is more than what he wears and what heroic name he goes by. For 10 years, Tom Welling got to get to the roots of Clark Kent. Exactly. That haven't been explored as much in other live-action adaptations, which were under time limitations to move past his origin story and establish him as Superman. Despite the strict no tights, no flights mandate, this is why Smallville became the ultimate Superman television series and why it still holds up today. It absolutely does. Clark's actions make him Superman, not the suit. While other Superman TV shows have featured Clark in the iconic suit, Welling's version only wore the shirt piece during the final shot in the series finale. Pretty much every other scene where Welling was in the suit was just CGI, which led to much criticism from the viewers, including me. While it's understandable that fans who had invested 10 years following this character were upset, what Clark wears isn't what makes him Superman. It certainly is an imperative aspect of the Man of Steel, without a doubt. But Smallville gave fans 10 years of Clark being the hero that so many know him to be in the comics from the first season and beyond. Viewers saw Clark on a weekly basis, sorry, I'm getting emotional here, saving people from various threats, whether it be meter-infected baddies or supervillains from the comics. In the later years, Clark began to explore his Kryptonian destiny in a way that other Superman media hasn't done exactly. Even if Clark did meet huge villains like Metallo, Toyman, Brainiac, way before becoming the titular hero, they'll always be in Superman's life regardless. For Clark to face them as a young man made him even more prepared. Hence why they may be more challenging in the future as he keeps encountering them. This is what I always said. But ultimately, Clark's actions are what makes him worthy of the Superman name by always using his abilities for the greater good, even if he is missing the red cape and blue tights. Clark is the hero to the core, regardless of what he wears. This is true. One of the strongest elements that the Smallville creators gave his version of Clark were layers that made Superman even more complex throughout the early years of his origin story. Clark wasn't necessarily interested in embracing the destiny that Jor-El had set up for him. It took him until the second half of Smallville for Clark to finally trust his biological father and slowly but steadily explore his ultimate role as Earth's greatest saviour. But what makes Welling's take on Superman so fascinating is that he was insecure and doubtful about his ability to fulfill that destiny. There was even a time where Clark lived as a mortal after losing his powers for good, after failing to follow Jor-El's orders. Even though that didn't last for long, there was still a moment in Clark's life where he was happy to just be a regular human being. What makes a great Superman are the versions where Clark realistically does question whether this is what he was meant to do. But more importantly, is this something he wants to do by the time Smallville Season 8 got around to the red-blue blur phase of the original story? It was evident that Clark was putting his heart into embracing his destiny, but the concept of seeing this particular hero, whose legacy spanned over decades, doubting himself and questioning if he could live up to his role, is what makes Welling's Clark one of the most well-developed versions of the character on the screen in the modern age. Absolutely. This is a great article. Throughout Clark's progression on Smallville, viewers saw him master one ability after another every season. However, one half of the show's mandate was that Clark would never be able to fly, at least not before the very end. Even though Clark did fly on multiple occasions, it still never counted as his first official flight. While Clark technically always had the power to fly, it took him about 10 years to actually know how to masterfully use that power. From a production standpoint, it's understandable that the restriction may have also been driven by budget costs. However, even if it wasn't their intention, Smallville actually managed to honour Action Comics 1, the issue that introduced Superman to the world, because Superman couldn't always fly. He used to jump from skyscraper to skyscraper in Action Comics #1. While the Man of Steel has been able to fly for decades in the comics, Clark actually didn't have that power initially when Superman made his debut. In 1938, the last son of Krypton actually couldn't fly at all. Instead, he travelled through super speed, or as saying goes, being able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Throughout Clark's super saves, he was mostly getting from one place to another through the power of speed. But there were also occasions where he could literally leap in order to save the day. So while it's understandable that viewers would be frustrated that Clark didn't fly on a regular basis, it's not like the idea of him only being able to run and leap never actually existed from the source material. Listen, I never had an issue with the suit not being worn or him not flying every episode or things like that. He wasn't there yet, and it was about the emotional, psychological aspects of this character and the pre-Superman journey. That was done beautifully. So you didn't really need to see him fly or in the suit for all those seasons. Smallville Season 4 made a shocking move when they introduced one, if not the most iconic, important person in Clark's life as Superman. Lois Lane, portrayed by Erica Durance for 6 seasons. Lois entered Clark's world much earlier compared to most Superman adaptations on screen. Normally, Lois doesn't become a part of Clark's journey until when he gets to Metropolis and starts working at the Daily Planet. In this incarnation, Lois is depicted as Chloe Sullivan's cousin, who comes to Smallville to investigate her relative's murder, while initially meeting Clark as Kal-El before being freed from Jor-El's brainwashing. The two eventually begin a big relationship that ended in them falling in love with each other many seasons later. Even if this is unusual for the Superman and Lois dynamic, this was one of the best decisions Smallville ever did for its iconic couple in live action. It was brilliant. Not only did we see the whole relationship between Clark and Lana, we see the relationship between Clark and Lois from its beginning, and we saw it mature. For over 6 years, viewers got to really get to the meat of the Lois and Clark dynamic before getting to their destiny as a romantic couple. While the writers did indeed still have Lois not knowing his secret until much later, the way she becomes a part of helping Clark embrace his ultimate destiny made their dynamic that more refreshing. It also allowed Smallville to add something new to the Superman legacy by not going the traditional route of Lois only meeting Clark after he begins his path as the Man of Tomorrow. By the time they're finally together with Lois knowing his secret, the payoff was incredibly worth it. Even if it took over 5 seasons, the journey that Lois and Clark take before finally reaching that point became one of Smallville's best chapters. But here's my favourite chapter. The Smallville version of Lex Luthor is the best one in live action. And I know I'm going to get hate from dceu fans, but it's unchallengeable. What Rosenbaum did, what Alan Miles did with this Lex Luthor was sensational. Yes, they had episodic television to develop it, and I understand that. But it's just uncomparable. Just like there have been multiple takes on Superman in live action, so has there been with the character of Lex Luthor. Smallville wasn't only an origin story for Clark, but also for Lex and his destiny as Superman's ultimate antagonist. While many actors have portrayed the iconic mastermind, the dedication, I'm going to tear up now, the dedication and work that Michael Rosenbaum put into Lex over 7 seasons make him stand out from every other performer. The decision to have Lex and Clark start as best friends before becoming the best of rivals is another reason why Smallville excelled at adapting the Superman universe in refreshing ways. With the addition of John Glover's Lionel Luthor, Lex's journey became one of the most compelling and understandable origin stories for a villain in modern storytelling. You don't understand, this is really emotional to me. Smallville put the essence on Lex's complicated relationship with Lionel, the constantly changing dynamic between him and Clark, and how the world essentially villainized him at an early point in his life. To see someone having that many obstacles when trying to be good makes Lex's journey truly tragic, as he ultimately does become Clark's nemesis in the 7th season. Rosenbaum's Lex was also portrayed in a way where he couldn't be ridiculed like previous incarnations in other Superman media. Despite knowing that he was destined to become Superman's biggest enemy, the writing always managed to make Lex's journey intriguing, surprising and refreshing. By the time Lex embraces his role as Clark's nemesis, it feels earned and organic, absolutely. While others have played Lex after Rosenbaum, it has never been on his level, nor have they never had the same writing that his Lex had. That's spot on. The acting and the writing was so strong, so powerful. And I encourage you, friends, if you haven't seen Smallville, you definitely need to see it. It makes everything look crap. The Lex Luthor thing is one of the most powerful aspects of the show. While Smallville followed the broad stroke of Superman's mythology, it also benefited from putting its own spin on it for 10 years, from giving Lois an even larger role in Clark's life, as well as her own origin story to how they tackled Lex's complexity as as a destined villain to Peter Clark's evolution as a superhero, those are part of what keeps Smallville as relevant as it still is today. Welling and Durance's cameos in Crisis on Infinite Earths were partially a way to show gratitude to Smallville in paving the way for the comic book genre on television that exists today. That's spot on, but we don't need to talk about their appearance on Crisis because I don't agree what they did with them. As far as I'm concerned, that is not canon, and I'm not interested in it. But, well done. This is a fucking brilliant article, and if that doesn't make you want to watch Smallville from episode 1, which is called Pilot, to the series finale, which is called Finale, then you're never going to be attracted to it. But it was an amazing show. It was my life as a lonely young man living in a bedsit, and it means a hell of a lot to me. And finally today we have another question from Scott Edwards. He keeps on getting airtime because you're not asking me anything. So it's your problem, right? Movies TV Mad. Here's my topic request for tomorrow's DCEU Daily. He means today's. Is the DCEU better than the Dark Knight trilogy? Oh, it's a really good question, but an unfair question. Right, let's get down to this. Let's cough a bit. Got a bit of a frog in my throat. I literally haven't had a break. I've been talking for 40 minutes here. Anyway, right. The Dark Knight trilogy is got a beginning, middle and end. Now, my favourite film from the Dark Knight trilogy is Batman Begins. Now, it got the lower of the box offices of all three movies, but I think it's the best. Christian Bale delivers one of the most perfect rounding performances of any actor of anything of all time. What Nolan and Bale do with this character is show us Bruce Wayne's soul. It reveals it. It's important. It's so raw. It's so beautifully done. It's an absolutely perfect movie and the most ultimate Batman movie. It is an amazing movie. And after you make a movie like that, it's really hard to top it. Now, everyone's favourite movie from this trilogy is The Dark Knight. It's not mine. Batman Begins, for me, is the ultimate movie from this trilogy and beyond this trilogy. But obviously, The Dark Knight is an amazing film, and even The Dark Knight Rises is amazing. But you could tell there were issues with that film because the death of Heath Ledger messed up Chris's plans. But what is the better franchise? The Dark Knight trilogy or the DCEU? Well, look, the DCEU isn't a trilogy. It's a franchise. There's some films that are better than others. For example, Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, Dawn of Justice, Wonder Woman, even the music video edit of Suicide Squad. For me, are really good films that I enjoyed. We don't have to talk about Justice League. There's no point. I think it's a franchise more often than not that stands tall from its uniqueness. But if you're asking me what's better, it's a difficult question. And it's not fair either to the DCEU or to the Dark Knight trilogy. So I'm going to say at the moment, because the Dark Knight trilogy is a finished one, and we know the sensibilities and the logistics of it, I would have to go with the Dark Knight trilogy. But I tell you what, the DCEU isn't far behind it. And that's it for today's DCEU Daily. It was a lot of fun, a lot of controversial issues, a lot of serious issues, a lot of damaging issues going on right now in our fandom. The Ray Fisher stuff, which is very complicated. We've got the rumours about the Snyder Cut being cancelled, which is not true. What my advice is after you see this video today is just put on a film. Forget Twitter, forget YouTube. Watch this, of course. You should be watching this, of course. But yeah, go and watch a film. Go and watch Man of Steel. Go and watch Batman vs Superman. Go and watch an older DC film. Go and binge Smallville for the first time, right? Yeah, do that. Watch something. It's good to talk about stuff, but mostly it's good to actually experience it. Have a good day. Comment down below. Tag me over on Twitter. Let me know any topics you want me to talk about. Comment down below. Like, share and subscribe. And I'll be back tomorrow when my voice gets better. See you again soon.